Today, the guest on the show is Dr. Ushi Mohan. She says it was cushy and somewhere the K fell down, but her cushy continues to be there. And the doctor is for her being a
medical,
dental and mental doctor. Now, I don't know whom I'll be addressing, the medical, the dental, or the mental, because actually for a good cushy life, you need all the three well-being, isn't it? You have to be medically good, you have to have good teeth also to eat properly, and mentally you have to be fit. I would say fit. Yeah. So let's start. I'll ask Ushi to first introduce herself and tell her, because frankly, I'm meeting her for the first time. I met her on Facebook. Facebook is a great networking site, I must say. I'm all for it, because most of my guests who have come on the show are people whom I have identified on Facebook. I've just sent them a message and said, will you be my guest on the show? And they have very gracefully accepted it. And Ushi too is one of them. So Ushi, all about yourself.
There's nothing much about myself, Chaya. First of all, thank you so much for having me over.
Pleasure.
But yes, once again, Facebook did it. And almost all the friends I've made and the few enemies that I currently have are on Facebook because of the fact that, yes, you vocalize yourself loud and clear.
Okay.
And you also have seen life at close quarters. I am a doctor, yes, by profession. But by passion, I would refer to myself as Dr. Tung Fu. I practice something which uses words to convey messages. I use also words to heal people.
Okay.
I also listen a lot to what people have to say in terms of their words and help them assess their own situations, maybe a wee bit better and more impersonalized than they are in their current situations. Because all the time people are talking either in thoughts or in words.
Yeah.
And they're talking either to themselves or to somebody else.
Most often, I think
Yes.
they're talking to themselves,
Sure.
which comes out in the form of words,
Yes.
either good, bad, positive, negative.
Yes.
Isn't
So
it?
most often what you think, what you feel and what you say are definitely not in a straight line.
Sure.
You feel one thing, you say one
something,
thing,
and you
and
do
finally you
something
really would have thought something totally contrary to
And
what
you
you
talk
said.
about teamwork.
Yes, and
And
you talk about being straight in life. You talk about being honest in life. You talk about being who you are in life. And I feel that I have seen too many people who feel and wish they did something else, but they are currently stuck in situations where you are doing something because you just need to live,
But
you
they're
need
not
to
being
earn, and they're definitely not being in the place
whom
that they are
want to.
doing.
Yeah.
So,
But you know what, Ushi?
Yeah.
It's so easy for some of us who are where we want to be, who are doing what we want to do, who are being whom we want to be. Because I think there are a whole lot of other things that support that to happen.
yes, absolutely.
Most people may not have the support systems to make that happen.
True.
May not have the degree of courage because it requires a lot of courage. Do you agree?
Yes, it requires tremendous courage, and like you said, I'm privileged.
Yes.
My parents have always been with me. My family has always stood by me in terms of what I did. And there are times when you didn't work only for the money, and you worked purely for the reason that you love to work and do the kind of things that you do. So I have studied like no man's business, because in the earlier days, everyone thought the intelligent should either become a doctor or an engineer.
Even today.
Even today, the trend continues,
Yes.
as we can see in the comedy K, what's happening here. Everyone queues up in whichever lines. I've performed extremely well as a student, so I knew that I had the capacity to intellectually maybe fulfill a couple of wishes which friends and family had. But at the end of the day, it was always the right brain which was giving me a pinch off and on. And every given chance that I got, I always ensured and enjoyed creating things which are new. Enjoyed innovating things, enjoyed amalgamating the existing things.
But there are some, Ushi, who do have everything and they still don't do what they want to do. What do you say about that?
Well, for me and for everyone else, I think life is full of choices.
Exactly.
And one takes responsibility for the choices you make, some good and some not so good. But at the end of the day, you are who you think you are, and you are ending up in a place which you chose to be in. So
okay,
there's
when you
nothing
say
else.
the choices that we make, all right, what are choices based on?
The choices are based either on aspirations, which all of us have, dreams, and probably some kind of a role model, which most of us have in our life. And the fact that you always want to, and you don't know whether you need to, but most of us definitely want to do something. So the kind of initial stages of living existence, taking yourself onto a plane which is physical primarily, because a lot of us exist in the physical plane,
Yeah.
and it takes a while before you start realizing there are things which are extremely important between your ears, which is most neglected most often, and you come to it only when you have a problem. Thereby, what happens is you're seeing things as you grow. Your environment is a great molder. Your genetics is a great amount of influence on how you think and the choices you make. And finally, the monetary constraints. Sometimes a person who really doesn't have anything wants to have it all. A person who has it all feels that he needs to have something else. So life is all about acquiring things, acquiring people, acquiring traits, and living in an environment where you believe you have arrived.
But peace is something everyone would like to have, isn't it?
True. Absolutely true. And peace is one thing for, again, a person and another thing for another. But for me, it's about acceptance. The entire situation for me, peace is acceptance. Most of the people are denying themselves or fighting something. And thereby you're destroying your own existing situation, because the only thing certain about life is death. And I'm sure we need not worry about it. So there are 4 questions for me, Chaya, which I've observed through people and their observations. That who am I? What am I doing here? I mean, where am I going from here? So these kind of questions are always asked in everyone's minds. But since I cannot give any tangible explanations, or I cannot tell you I like you 10 kilos, and or I trust you maybe 15 kilos more than yesterday.
You can't
and I cannot
quantify it.
quantify it.
Yeah.
A lot of life is metaphysical. And it's not scientific assertions, but metaphysical assumptions. So what happens is that people are unable to think in abstract. And abstract thinking is purely a matter of the right brain. We've shut it all off because predominantly in India and many people across the world, we are all right-handers. And when we are predominantly right-handers, the left brain becomes completely muscled and well endowed and capable of taking on anything that is technical, logical, analytical. We're too good at it. But for the few people who have a right brain, I'm sure they start enjoying a house becoming a home. Even if you're not writing legibly with your left hand, we must inculcate at least a 10-minute practice of scribbling with your left hand. Thereby, your right brain remains active, stimulated, and completely electrically innervated.
Okay. So if you're a left-hander...
We are cross-wired, Chaya.
Yes.
We're cross-wired.
And it's not good for a left-hander to be coaxed into becoming a right-hander.
Absolutely the worst mistake anyone can do. Yes, because you're actually transferring what's naturally meant for you in terms of your mechanics, in terms of the structurally built component. It's like you cannot have a Ferrari drive through city market. So engines are made for certain purposes. Brain is also made for a particular purpose. The right has a purpose in life. The left surely has a purpose in life. The important thing is to be whole-brained. But how many of us are? It's a very good question.
How does one become whole-brained?
Well, that's where I come in, because I've kind of, I would say, invented and innovated existing practices. Because I've observed, in particular, I deal with a lot of young kids and young adults. So I've always observed, and I tell them, do you guys meditate? And I just ask them. And they say, oh, ma'am, we don't have any problems. And they say,
so
ma'am, we are not as old yet.
So they associate meditation with problems or old age.
There's a lot of myths associated with the fact that you're spending 10 minutes with yourself. Because meditation is nothing but being in a maximum state of awareness and internalizing within yourself for maybe 10 minutes a day.
But you know something?
Yes.
All these youngsters, boys, girls, they are greater meditators than the saints. You know why? Meditation is constantly thinking about something.
Exactly.
They're constantly thinking about their girlfriend or their boyfriend. Where they can meet, what they can do with it. They're constantly, so they are meditating more than any of us.
True, that is also a form of meditation.
Yes,
but it would deal with an area which is primarily the pleasure-giving centers.
No, but you know what they do? That meditation leads them on to do stupid things. It doesn't give them peace. It doesn't give them peace.
Chaya, it's stupid for you and me maybe, but for them it's hip, it's cool.
So this meditation is not giving them peace. It's giving them all the wrong ideas to deal with that thing that they are meditating on. isn't it?
Yeah, at a particular physical age, all right, man is primarily chemicals.
I don't think it's a
Yes.
physical age, because the other day I saw about a grown-up married woman with children
Mm.
who's having an affair with another guy, and then meditating on him all the time. And then when he became a discomfort in her life, she meditated on how to get rid of him.
Well, that's a little bit of the premeditated plans more than meditating.
Yeah.
But in my definition, from where I come, meditation is about just being who you are in the moment and just kind of focusing on the things which you believe are important to you at that given moment. For me, it's all about the states of the brain. Now, when you are young, you have a bunch of chemicals which are running in your stream. A pubertal child or a young adolescent or a very young adult will always have a hormonal concentration which is extremely different from a person such as you or me, because we have a separate level of the concentration of certain chemicals. And that's why I say all men and women are chemical factories.
Correct.
At all given points in time, particularly when we are stressed out, we have this huge concentration and, the elevation and depression of certain chemicals which are present in the body. And what happens is meditation helps us to regulate and maintain the balance.
balance them.
And when you have these hormones which are in balance, the chemicals which are naturally running in our body which are in balance, the kind of thought process that is enabled within the brain, because the brain is primarily enabled by chemicals and by electricity. So it's governed only by these two things. The physical existence is already there. The development happens with experiences. But unfortunately, we all gym, but there's no exercising for the brain or for brain gymming. So I have devised simple methods by means of which, first, we balance the chemical states of the body. Second, we accept whatever we are and the situations in which we are. And third, the brain becomes very empowered to take decisions wisely and take responsibility for the decisions that you take. So I would not blame a kid for behaving the way they do, because there's a great deal of influence in what they have in their current life, exposed to the Western world, exposed to so many other, cultures. And I would not say there's anything right or wrong about it, because it's a perception. But yes, how will they choose? And how will they choose based on the person's or the feelings that they have? Today's kid is always blaming somebody else for their existence. They're always blaming somebody else for the damages that happen to them. They're always blaming the system, blaming the country. I wouldn't blame them at all, because that's what they see on TV. That's what they see in the real world. That's what they keep saying, because I've rarely seen media highlight good.
Yeah.
It's full of negativity around you. So all the more reason why we need to be trebly positive so that we can balance the negative outside. Because chaya, for me, meditation is a kind of existential balance between the inner world and the outer world.
Why isn't anything done about it? About you introduce history, geography, latitude, longitude, equator, none of those things apply to our lives. But we make that a subject for 45 minutes, you subject the kids to that, and
True.
then trigonometry, unless you want to take all that. Okay. But there is nothing given to them in the form of, this is the imbalance that you have. This is the balance that you have to do. Life skills.
Yes.
They're not taught any life skills.
True. What about the communication skills? The kind of language a person uses is very critical in the analytical thought process that happens in your brain. So every time you foul mouth or you abuse or you listen to the kind of lyrics that goes on in most of the songs today, it does influence you in a very passive way. You may not consciously be aware of
But
it,
it's there.
but in your subconscious there's a lot of embedding that happens, because I'm told from research as well as, the documented evidence that's there, it takes 0.9 nanoseconds for a thought to sink in.
Wow.
And 0.9 nanoseconds is quicker than the quickest thing that you would have ever seen in your life.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it sinks into a system where they say it takes you a couple of million years to get rid of that system. So if there's a thought that's sinking in, it sinks in much faster than you're able to throw it out.
Maybe that's the reason why these terrorist camps and all that, they
Exactly.
brainwash the Ajmal Qassa wouldn't
Because
have
the mind
been.
does it all.
Yeah.
Your body is just a small vessel, and the entire controls, the entire direction which your life takes, and what you take, the responsibility for your actions, what you feel like immediately and what you feel like later, your complete reaction, response, everything is oriented in the brain. So for me, it's not about quick thinking, because today's generation and today's people are all about information and quick thinking. I love the information part, but I'd like to change the fact that you become slow thinkers. Because when you slow down the brain works most efficiently. But unfortunately, people don't realize that. A sense of awareness inculcates what I call the beta state of functioning, wherein you're functioning in an electrical cycle which is much more rapid than required. And if you slow down your brain a little bit, which I believe meditation does.
Meditation helps, okay.
Yes, it allows you and enables you clearer thinking, better vision, and of course, the best decision that you can ever take in your life. I've not seen anyone go wrong in the alpha state of the brain. But for that, it requires a little bit of training.
All right. You're coming to training now. Where does one get training for all this? Okay, Ushi is doing it here in Bangalore. Some people know about it. Some people, many people don't know about it. You come to a particular place. Can this go to the place where they are, where it is needed, rather than asking them to come? You see, most people don't want to be told that they need all these things.
Exactly.
Okay? They don't want to be told anything. Do this or do that. Oh, that's my life. I'll do whatever I want.
True.
Isn't it?
Yes.
How does one motivate these youngsters? Today you go to the malls in the daytime, it's flooded with youngsters.
True.
I don't know, they're bunking classes, they're bunking work or whatever it is, and they are there. The PVRs are fully with huge buckets of popcorn and soda and things like that, isn't it?
Yes.
Can you bring them out and say, hey, I'm going to teach you alpha meditation? They'll give you a funny look and say, go jump.
Well, I've made practices, Chaya, to overcome the same thing. When I'm handling crowds which are of a particular age, there is a particular technique which I follow.
Okay.
And I also very subtly go to the institutions, and I have made it, like you called it, infotainment. I have made my practices edutainment,
Okay.
which means I educate them first. I allow them some entertainment at the cost of the human brain. And then finally, I allow them to touch the power of the human brain. And today, the younger generation always wants to be ahead. They want to have the latest phone. They want to have the latest
Ahead
clothing.
only as far as
Yes.
the gizmos are concerned.
Yes, they want everything when it comes to gadgets. So I present the brain as a gadget which they own. So I believe that the last upgrade that we saw in this device was at the time of Adam and Eve. And ever since then, we have
It's
the
the
same
same.
version that's running. But if we meditate, we can take it to a different OS 1. So it's a different operating system. And if you meditate frequently for a couple of years, it goes to the OS 2. So we know that what happens is the operating system starts getting upgraded. And for me, the brain is a device because finally it works on the inputs of electricity. It definitely works on the inputs of information and the software that's being downloaded every day by us. And finally, the kind of operating capacity that the owner possesses, which means that every device is capable of a particular output. But I'm sure that 9 out of 10 of us will not use our devices to at least 90% of what it's capable of.
I think that's
Yes.
because we're not even aware of the potential of this device.
And to
isn't it?
quote Intel statistics, I've done some homework on these comparisons. And to quote statistics, the human brain, Chaya, is capable of 2.5 petabytes of functioning capacity, and 2.5 petabytes is equivalent to 2.5 million gigabytes, and that can beat in all the computers on planet Earth. If you're watching a DVD, as per the original power the human brain possesses, which is obviously authenticated by research, you can watch 200 million hours of continuous watching time. And I'm not really sure how many of us even are aware of it, and we even would consider we are capable of maybe 15 seconds of good watching time. So it's a highly underutilized organ, and my maybe attempt in life, or maybe I would say my wish in life, is to ensure that we at least switch on this organ once a day and switch it off for a long time.
Let me now come to a more structured
Yes.
discussion here now. I'll stop. We're talking to our medical, dental, and mental doctor. Let me start with the medical doctor. Tell me about when you became a doctor, what is it, and
Well,
what are you doing?
I've kind of, like I said, because I was averagely intelligent when I was younger, people just said you become a doctor. Now, the fact that, yes, you chose something wherein you want to serve people. I love people by nature. I love hanging around them. And, you have all kinds of labels which comes with extrovert, introvert. I don't believe in all those words, but nevertheless, I love being with people. I love animals.
Okay.
So between the two, yes, I had to really choose who I wanted to be around. And I thought the best way to be around people who are normal is to be around also those who are really not so well, and you could do something about it. So I'm an alumnus of Davangere. So I finished everything that I had to. It's a good 30 years since I finished all my studies. I've been teaching for the last 30 years. So I'm a proper alumnus of
specialized?
everything. Yes, I'm a pediatric dental surgeon.
Okay.
So I've specialized in pediatric oral and maxillofacial surgery. And after which, yes, I had this inclination towards language right from day one. I love English. Maybe it's the British that left a small, stronger mark on me.
Really, man?
Yes. So I just love the language. And I always have been somebody who's into active debating and stuff like that. So accidentally, when I came back, I went to Regional Institute of English. So I happened to enroll there and I started doing an evening class. So I went on to do my master's in English. So I did an MA and a so-called language skill because
It's in
always the right brain
Mysore?
tickled me.
Mysore
No, it's
or
on the
Bangalore?
Mysore Road.
Road, okay.
Yes. It's on the campus, Kengeri. Yeah, it's there. So I used to do dictaphones and I used to do tapes. So I love language. The moment I finished doing my rote learning, which came very easy to me, I was simultaneously working because everyone said, you're a doctor, you can't be doing English. So I went against what everyone said. And I said, no, I like English. I think it's very important because the patient always came back to me and said, allow that doctor to tell me when I'm going to die. So they digested what I would tell them much more than somebody else. I felt maybe there was a particular method which I was using, which they were comfortable with in receiving.
Okay.
So I decided that, yes, I need to research a little bit of communications. So I went on to do a little bit of language. And then, of course, the brain, right from the time I held it in my hand, from the time I read about it, I've been an Asterix comic freak. I love Tintin and, I love Calvin and Hobbes. I like all these kind of things which are like funny and at the same time,
They
they're
give you a
witty.
lot of gyan, really.
Yes, they
isn't
do
it?
a lot of subtle gyan giving
Really?
through a message which they convey. So I can read Asterix comics a million times. And, I'm grateful to those guys who made it because every single time I don't feel too good, I used to pick that up. And people at the medical school and the dental school thought I was crazy. I was always dexterous. So I saw the dentists who were needling and fiddling with instruments, playing with plaster of Paris. I thought, oh, wow, this seems very interesting because the right brain again starts knocking. So I go back there and I start doing the filling and the carving and wax carvings. It was very exciting until I finished everything. And I realized it's all right. I mean, everyone can be a dentist.
Okay.
Everyone can be a doctor.
Everyone
Because-
can be anything
yes.
they want to
so
be.
you get a degree. So I got a degree. And then after that, there was still something inside me, which was a right brain, which was going on calling out to me, saying English, English, which went on saying you should act, which you should speak, you should do all kinds of things. So when I started doing all of that, I accidentally started reading a lot. So I'm a kind of a lot more self-taught than the rote learning kind of expert in psychology. But then I did go in for an evening session in the Masters in Clinical Psychology in Bangalore University. So I went in there and I tried to understand psychology from the theoretical perspective. But fortunately, because of the fact that I deal with kids, I started counseling a lot of kids and parents, and I realized there was a natural skill. So for me, I wouldn't call myself at all someone who is who I am today because of the education. I am who I am today in spite of the education. And then finally started computing something wherein we call it the brain states and, prepubertal behavior. So that's my area of expertise because
Okay.
I used to observe extreme aggression, extreme depression, a kind of an extreme in an age where you're actually just transiting from one age to the other. So that kind of fascinated me because it's again a very fluid area. And I like anything which flows. Stagnation is not really something I'm comfortable with. And then I realized maybe it's the way that you say something to someone.
Yeah.
You need someone else to always reinforce the fact that you're not feeling very good. Maybe someone needs to just tell you it's all right. Don't worry.
Not to-
And that's
yes.
all it takes. But we refuse to do that because we even refuse to acknowledge. We always tell people, no, don't feel bad. No. I mean, things will be fine. But if you just tell them it's all right and it'll all just pass.
Sab theek ho
Yeah,
jayega.
sab theek ho
That's
jayega.
a
And-
famous saying in all those, serials I watch. It'll be terrible. Nothing can become all right.
Yes.
नहीं, sab kuch theek ho jayega. Is it how?
I have an organization today which is holding on to about 2-3 lakh people across India. And it's called Forum Against Corruption in Medical and Dental Education.
Really?
It's called Face and Fame.
Okay.
And we have established, we put in quite a few people behind bars. I have quite a few lawyers who are working along with us. I have a very active organization which is responsible for all the amendments that you're seeing right now in Parliament, the single entrance system that is happening right now called NEET. We are also working on the fact that all the regulatory bodies which are corrupt, etc., they'll be going where they need to. count, the bars and, stay as much as possible there. Being an ordinary person, I don't think I've taken a single penny from anybody.
But this is not like a consumer forum.
No, this is not. This is a properly registered trust which runs only against corruption in medical and dental education.
Okay, only medical and dental.
And medical. We have something called Forum Against Corruption in Education called FACE. So we do general education as well if somebody represents a particular case to us. Okay. So we have legal advice which we give them first, and irregularities primarily pertaining to admission. We also take on patients, not consumer, but we have a site wherein probably people go and enlighten themselves. If they have doubts, we have FAQs. If they want to, they can write to us. If they want to take a second opinion through specialists, we also send them over to a complete pool of doctors who are known to have ethical practice.
Okay.
And we don't charge anybody a single penny for anything they do.
So how do you sustain yourself?
Yeah, well, this is another thing about the right brain. Every time I'm in deep trouble and I feel that my bank account has come down to the least, I will get some job wherein I can utilize my right brain, and then I earn by helping people.
Okay.
Yes, I do small things like voiceovers. I do, on the right, which gives me the thrill, and you get a little bit of money. It's not my livelihood, but it does pay me some pocket money to put into good use. And I've kind of, I feel accomplished because, yes, people have started recognizing the fact that there's just a few people in this country who are without any noise, without any media hyping or any limelight, or just doing things until such that you're seen, is going to do and continue to do the same work. So that has become a lifetime crusade. Meanwhile, how did you handle all of this is what everyone asks me. That's where I came in and devised this simple, I would call a very simple and a very scientific technique of slowing down your brain. Okay. And that's purely my own method. And it's called the audio induction technique. I've observed kids like music. Youngsters love music. So I kind of have a friend who has a studio. We fine-tune the frequencies which go into your brain directly and give you the commands which are required in the specified time for you to relax. And the moment we say that, the person is completely switched off. So if you do that for 10 minutes a day, I'm sure that it gives you the physical fitness which you're going to the gym for. I believe this gives you the fitness, the energy, and the relaxation that you require by just practicing 10 to 15 minutes of what we call the alpha energy meditation technique.
And do you have these like a workshop? And
yes, I have workshops for the public. Okay. Plus we also have focused audiences like people who cannot afford it. So we also take on larger setups of women and children and parents who are gathered by organizations such as the Rotary or anybody who may have me over. But workshops for the public are for anybody. We do not take more than 25 people because it's a very focused kind of gathering. It's a little bit of a disciplined practice because the brain does require that discipline.
And it's a whole day workshop?
And it's a whole day. It's a 10 to 5 workshop.
Okay.
But yes, it's an audio induction technique. So it's the music, it's the sounds, and it's my commands through which I can access, because the brain can be accessed in different ways. And there are a million people doing it in different ways. And the moment you're triggering the right areas of your brain, the chemical receptors on each cell, which is responsible for insulin, which is responsible for the digestion of carbohydrates and the sugars, they start doubling up. So I've got educated people who are working in corporates, IT firms, all age groups, who will come, even here and vouch for the fact that they have practiced alpha regularly for a couple of months, maybe even just 3 to 4 months. And they have observed a very, very, not subtle, but strong change in not just their body and what is happening with the body, but with the entire thought process that happens in their head. And there's very clear-cut delineation of clear thoughts, the body improving itself, because you affirm the importance of
affirmations.
In alpha, if you give yourself an affirmation, it's like directly embedding it in your brain. So what's happened to these guys who've been stressed out, who feel a lot of confusion in their decision making and things like that, they have actually started seeing things in larger and better light. And what has happened is there is a gentleman who always used to say, I don't like wearing glasses, and I've got power and I cannot see, and I've got short sight, I've got long sight, I need reading glasses, I need glasses for TV. And in the last session, he's been attending continuously for the last almost 6 months. And he says, you know what, Ushi, now if I wear my glasses, I cannot see. And I mean, it's probably like magic.
Okay.
I've got people who come to me and say that they wished for some things for the last 15 years. They've not met people whom they wanted to meet in the last 15 years. But all of a sudden, they just pop up in front of you because you wished for it in alpha.
Ushi, you must now share with us where you hold this. When will you be holding this? So those who want to attend it, so how do they get in touch with you? Can you share those details?
Yeah,
on the
Chaya,
screens?
first of all, thank you very much. We run by the name of the Mind Workshops.
Okay.
And we have a series of right brain activity which we trigger in these workshops. One is creativity. Second, as you also very well know, communications.
Yeah.
It's able communicators are always right brain people. And finally, the alpha power meditation. These are the only three things we do there.
Okay.
And the Mind Workshop has its own page on Facebook. It's called the Mind Workshops. We always have our events which are displayed there. We do a once or a twice in a month event for the public. And for people who are needing a one-on-one sometimes, we also take appointments and I keep an informal atmosphere so that they can follow it up later with the same kind of setting, because the human brain is always, capable of visualization.
Correct.
And the initial visualization is extremely important because we are like, a thought factory. We've got a million thoughts which are going helter-skelter, and the important thing is to allow them to flow in a channel. So
What about women? Women have more of a right brain.
Yes, women
orientation.
have more right brains, but unfortunately, again, physical activity does govern a lot of the electrical stimulus in the right brain. Women have a brain which is more expansive and I would say oceanic. The depths are also very good. Whereas you need a man also to be with the
To
woman
balance that.
because they complement each other's energy levels.
correct.
Because alpha is completely about energy funda and energy statistics. Because
So I hope our listeners will want to have this energy, because today I think lack of energy is what is making them frustrated, and that energy is not the physical energy but the mental energy which comes from having a RIGHT approach from your brain. Thank you so much, Ushi, for this really very, very informative talk that we've had today, and I look forward to coming as a senior citizen.
you're most welcome, and thank
I'll
you
come
so
back
much.
and talk about it and my experience and tell everybody else, go for it. Alpha meditation.